Oh, if it were just a joke. Hey, good morning. We are in week 4 of 5 in this series that we're looking at struggles and what it means to follow Jesus in a selfie-centered world. Today we're talking about compassion, and in some ways, everything we've talked about the last few weeks, the whole modern world technology, social media is what I'm trying to say, and technology have really helped us to spread a spirit of compassion. We just know things that we quicker than we would have known before. Things that we didn't think about or weren't thinking about get kind of rise to the top to our attention in different ways. But in other ways, it has kind of hindered compassion as well. Now, on the positive end, like I said, we organizations will raise money that they couldn't have before, because all of a sudden it's before us. We're like, oh yeah, that's really important. We'll send them $10, $100, whatever it is. But then what happens is it will disappear as quickly as it rose. That's kind of the negative side. Something rises to the top, we get all excited about it, and then it disappears kind of quickly. Maybe you remember, hopefully you remember, 2 years ago, probably, I think it's about 2 years and about 10 days ago, there were over 200 Nigerian schoolgirls were kidnapped by an Islamic terrorist group, and it really captured the heart of the world. People were taking selfies with really sad faces and putting the hashtag "Bring Our Girls Back," and it was everywhere. It was on the news, it was on TV, it was on Facebook, on social media, Twitter, anywhere you were at, you saw pictures like this from people all over the world raising our awareness to what was going on with these 200-some girls. But a few weeks go by. This Islamic group doesn't bring back the girls. Nobody seems to really know, what can we really do about it? I'm sitting here in Iowa. What can I possibly do? What did my hashtag do? Did it really help anything? We can't really do anything about it. And so everybody just kind of moves on, and pretty soon the pictures just disappear. It's not on anybody's mind anymore. Well, 2 years have gone by, and those girls are still haven't been returned. And they're still in need of us finding them and rescuing them, but it's not so much in our minds anymore. How about the whole ALS ice bucket challenge? How many did that? The whole bucket over the head thing? I mean, remember that? It was like everybody was doing that. And we did one. It was kind of a fun thing, and it was really a cool thing. All of a sudden, everywhere you looked, people were getting really creative, like the dude in the picture there doing a helicopter, whatever. I mean, just to be different. But it raised a ton of money for Lou Gehrig's disease, and it helped with research. A lot of people were talking about it. It actually did a lot of good. But then, like everything else, it just kind of disappeared all of a sudden. Now, they still need money. They still need to have research. People are still getting diagnosed with the disease, but nobody's talking about it so much anymore. So it does some good, but then it just kind of disappears, and we kind of move on as a culture. With all the benefits that it can provide, there are some downsides to it when it comes to actually engaging in compassion, to it moving us to do something with this information. A University of Michigan study was done over a period of decades, right? I mean, a pretty extensive study, over 14,000 college students between the years 1979 and 2009. So if you were in college anywhere between 1979 and 2009, which is probably like most of us in this room, right? They were studying people in college, and what they have found out is that since 1979 to 2009, there was a 40% decline in compassion, in empathy over those years. From 1979 to 2009, we care 40% less than we used to. And they had all their research, and they figured out how to do that, and they came up to this conclusion. But think about that. Wrap your mind around that for a moment. People care some 40% less. Now, we're being taught it in schools. I mean, they're taught it since childhood, getting the pillars and all kinds of different things to try to teach us to be compassionate people. But yet, we care 40% less than we did back in the 80s. So the logical question is, well, why? Why are we caring less? What's going on that would maybe contribute to us not being as concerned about people or being engaged with people's lives as what we were some 30, 40 years ago? There's a lot of theories out there, but here's one that kind of keeps floating to the top from the experts, is that the rise of social media has causes people to care less about other people. The rise of social media causes us to care less about other people. We have this obsession with ourselves, and social media feeds that. We've been talking about that for the last couple of 3 weeks here. We've been throwing around the term selfie a lot the last couple of 3 weeks. How many of you have not done a selfie? There were people in the first service who've never done a selfie. Okay, some of you, oh, Roger, disappoint me. Right? Mike, I expected that out of you. Right. So some of you haven't done selfies, right? Some of you haven't done that. And so maybe you don't understand. I mean, it's kind of a generic term. What is a selfie? What does that even mean? So I went back over some of my history over the past couple of years on Facebook just to kind of explain to you who don't really get what the selfie is all about, what the purpose of a selfie is. So here's some of the things like we have an awesome pizza and you don't. All right. Sometimes you get to show people stuff like that, or look at these goofy hats we found at the sub place, and we get to show that to the whole world. Or we did a church selfie one day of we're at Child Serve singing Christmas carols, and wish you could come and be with us. Or how about we're having an awesome vacation and you're not? Have you ever taken one of those selfies? That was followed up the next year with us doing a selfie of you're probably having an awesome vacation on spring break and we're at the landfill. Okay, so it all comes around, right? How about I have a kitten on my shoulder? Anybody did the cute pet selfies? You got to have. Oh, that was a good cat too. Anyway, how about the look scared? We're being attacked by a giant strawberry. Ever done that selfie? You never know; it could happen. Or we're on a scary dark ride at the fair and we take that selfie. Okay, it was like the Yield Mill, so it wasn't really scary. Hey Pat, do you mind if I show a picture of you? Then there's I'm on the radio with Mac, doing an interview, a selfie. That was really important to me that day. Or we're on a bike ride representing Pathway, and there's a cool river shot, so let's take a selfie. Here's the deal with selfie. They're going on everywhere out there, but we can become so obsessed with ourselves that we don't have time for anyone else. That's the danger. That isn't wrong. So you take a picture of yourself, no big deal. But we can become so obsessed with ourselves that we have no time or energy for anybody else. Studies show that 80%, think about this next time you can jump online, 80% of what a person does on social media directly relates to them. You might pick up a few articles or recipes or something, but 80% of what I do on social media is, hey, did they like my photo? I took a selfie of me with a strawberry. Did they like that? Anybody make any comments? I better check that thing out. We're seeing what people are saying about us. Anybody comment? Anybody share it? Anybody talking about it? What's going on with this? And when we see someone comment, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, someone commented, someone shared, whatever, then our brain releases this dopamine, which makes us feel all warm and good and happy inside, which makes us want to come back for more. Now I got to post a better picture. Now I got to do something more exciting, something more creative. And what we're doing is we're actually training ourselves. We are training ourselves to become more self-absorbed, more self-centered by all these selfies. And we begin to truly believe, if we're not careful, this is the danger, we begin to truly believe, well, the world does center around me, right? Everybody's wanting my next picture. Everybody needs my next selfie. Everybody needs to know what I'm having for lunch today. Oh, here's me and my lasagna, and we become more self-absorbed. So researchers think maybe that's one reason we care less, because we're too self-absorbed. A third way technology can cause us to care a little bit less is a lack of personal interaction makes it easier to not care. Whoops, I missed one. Let me go back one. The second one, the overwhelming exposure to suffering desensitizes me. This is big. I don't want to skip this. That's why I thought, wait a minute, I forgot one. This is important. I think this happens to all of us. The more pain we see, the harder it is to care. Have you noticed that in your own life? We become desensitized to what's going on around us. Maybe we're powerless to do anything, so we just kind of take a step back and we kind of separate ourselves from it. Or maybe it's just too overwhelming. I can't do everything for everybody, so we just kind of step back. Remember the first time you saw, maybe it was an advertisement on TV, or it could have been at a concert, where someone were like doing sponsorship for hungry children. The first time you saw that picture of a hungry child, and you're looking at them thinking, I've got to do something. You're moved. You're just like, I can't not do something. I have to be involved with this child. I can save this child for just a few dollars a month. I can help this child. And you want to do something. You may even have sponsored a child. But what happens is then there's another picture of another hungry child. And you're feeding one, and you think, you're like, no, I got to have two. No, I got to have three. When do you stop? Well, I can't do them all. And you kind of, if you're not careful, we'll start backing them off. Maybe you would see them on TV, like you're already sponsoring one. You see the TV commercial come on, help the children. You're like, you turn the channel real quick. It's like, I can't do this. I can't go there. I can't let my heart be broken for these children anymore. But then what happens? Time goes on, life happens. You have to drop that child because you bought a new car, and you got to have a car, right? I mean, I'm sure the child's hungry. You've fed them for a while, and you back off, and you get to the point where you scroll past that picture, turn the channel when it comes on. How about the time, do you remember, some of you will remember the first big school shooting, right? Like the whole country came to a standstill. I remember for weeks, I prayed earnestly for those families and for those children who lost friends and those who were injured, and I couldn't sleep for days, and for months I relived what potentially could have happened, and it was just this terror in me, and my heart just went out for them. Well, it's been a number of years now, and we've had a number of school shootings, and now it's kind of like another news story. Hey, did you hear there was a school shooting? Yeah, that's too bad. Oh. It doesn't affect us like it did in the very beginning. It still is too bad, and it's awful, and it's shocking, but we become a little bit desensitized the more we see things. Experts are saying that because we see everything on a timeline, you're scrolling through your Facebook, on your phone, or on your PC, whatever, everything's pretty much in the same type of news feed. You'll see a video of how to make some really awesome guacamole, and you're like, oh man, that looks really good. I'm going to try some of that tonight, and you kind of save it for later, maybe post, tag yourself or something so you can see it later. And then followed by a story of a protest of a political rally, and you're like, yeah, I'd protest too, or whatever. And then there's a funny cat video, and then there's an innocent person overseas being beheaded somewhere in the Middle East, and then there's a friend on vacation at the beach, and experts are saying that our brains, because they're all in a line, they're all equal, like we can't figure out really how to decide which one is more important than the other. Now, you would know if you had to put them on a scale, you could probably figure that out, but just casually observing, we don't know how to process that and to decide which one's more important than the other. The guacamole or the beheading? Well, I like guacamole. Oh, that beheading's awfully bad, They're equal on the page, and they become kind of equal in our minds, and that causes us to care a little bit less. Too bad about that beheading, but I sure would like some chips. It's kind of playing with our minds. Now, the third way I mentioned that technology can cause us to care less is a lack of personal interaction. It makes it easier not to care. Maybe you saw on the video, hey, lost my job, right? If you see someone on Facebook or whatever, social media, and they post, I lost my job, you're going to think, man, that's really terrible. And you might even make a comment, really praying for you guys, sorry about it. And you might pray while you're writing it in there, while you're posting it. You may pray later, maybe not, because now you're consumed with the guacamole or something, right? So you may or may not pray more later. But if we're sitting across from each other, maybe we're out having coffee or something, and you say, man, I just lost my job. And I see the desperation in your eyes, and I hear it in your voice, and you're like, I had to tell my kids we can't do dance anymore, and I'm not sure how I'm going to make my next house payment. See, suddenly, because we're one-on-one, we're face-to-face, I am moved deeper for you. And I go to bed to that night, and that's all I'm going to think about that day. I say, I got to really pray for this family. We've got to really help these people out. And because it's a personal interaction thing, it's in my heart, and I will care deeply for you, much more than I would from a distance. Now here's the challenge for us as Christ followers, as people who love Jesus and follow Jesus, is that God calls us to so much more than we can do on social media. We have to be careful that we don't let a social media relationship, kind of come into our church relationships with people, or inside the church or out. We have to make sure we are having authentic, like we talked about last week, relationships with people. Give you a couple main thoughts, and I want you to take home with you. Well, and this is stuff that's just keep this with you, right? Number one, true compassion demands action. It demands action. You can't be compassionate and just like something, or share it, or say praying for you on Facebook, right? It moves you to action. It demands it. The actual word, the Greek word translated, is that when you see the word compassion multiple times in Scripture, it literally means to have the bowels yearn. It's this deep inner thing that like moves you, right? I lost my job. Oh, you feel it in your gut. You're like, oh, I can't. Oh man, that is awful. I've been diagnosed with this sickness. Oh, and it hits you and it moves you. Okay, there's this aching, deep inside thing that drives us to help someone. It's to feel deep sympathy, to be moved to action. So that is so much deeper than a sad face on someone's status. Oh, that's really bad. Sad face with little tears, Back to the chips, Compassion, true compassion demands action. And secondly, to say you care but not act is to not care at all. So to say on Facebook, wow, this is really awful, I'm really sad, but then it kind of, you've lost it from there, it means you really, really, it's not real. It's social media care, it's not real care. Caring is not clicking, it's acting. It's actually doing something to make a difference. It's being moved from the depths of your soul inside you to get engaged with someone's life, to get outside of yourself and involved with someone else. If you look at the life of Jesus, every time you see the word compassion in the Gospels, and it happens quite often, we just went like word for word through the Gospel of Mark, Matthew, the last year and a half or so. So you know what I'm talking about. It comes up quite often. Every time you look at that word compassion, you see Jesus doing something in response. He isn't like having compassion on a crowd and saying, man, I hope that works out for him, and walk away. He does something. He would feel something. He would be deeply moved, and he did something. Mark chapter 1, verse 40, a leper came to him, implored him, kneeling, because this guy is like on his knees begging Jesus. Jesus sees this as a desperate situation, right? He's kneeling and said to him, if you will, you can make me clean. Moved with pity, that's that word. Deep inside his bowels, his soul moved for this guy, right? Moved with pity, he stretched out his hand and touched him and said, oh, I will. I will. Be clean. Be clean. He's moved, and it moved him to action. Matthew 14:14, he went ashore, saw a great crowd. He had compassion on them, and he healed their sick. He didn't come to shore and say, wow, that's too bad for you guys. I see a lot of you are sick. That's a bummer. I hope it works out for you. I'll be praying for you. Keep me updated on what's going on, right? Sure, everything works out with that leprosy thing. That's awful. He felt pain, he felt deeply, and he was moved to action. Matthew 20, verse 29, as they went out of Jericho, a great crowd followed him, and behold, there were two blind men sitting on the roadside. When they heard Jesus was passing by, they cried out, Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David. The crowd rebuked them, telling them to be silent, but they cried all the more, Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David. And stopping, they heard their voice. He got engaged, what was going on. He felt. He stopped. Jesus called to them, what do you want me to do for you? They said, Lord, let our eyes be open. And Jesus, in pity, compassion, moved him, touched their eyes. Immediately, they recovered their sight. And what did they do? And they followed him. Immediately. Jesus felt compassion for these guys, so he reached out and he did something. He didn't just like it. He didn't say, oh, sad emoji. He reached out and he touched them. True compassion demands action. But in many cases, if we're not careful, we will reduce that to a like or a sad face or some type of action like that and feel like we showed compassion. They know I care now. I put a sad face on their wall. They know I'm engaged now. Here's the bottom line. The more I obsess over social media, the more I care about me. Remember, 80% of that usually goes back to me. Oh, did they respond to me saying I'm sad? The more I obsess over social media, the more I care about me, the less I have time or room in my life for other people to care about other people. But the more I obsess about Jesus, the more I want to know who he is, know what moves him, know how he acted, know how he wants me to act, know what he wants to move me, right? The more I care about Jesus, strangely, the more I will care about other people. It's an obsession. Who are you obsessed with? Social media, yourself, or Jesus? Jesus will move you into compassion. Think about this for a moment. And I know we'll all have different answers to here. When was the last time you've given an entire day to just serve somebody else? Had nothing to do with you. Maybe you had to take time off work. Maybe it was a weekend. Maybe whatever. And you just said, I'm dropping everything and I'm coming to your rescue. When is the last time you significantly helped someone financially? It might have cost you dearly, and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do for my next. I don't know how I'm going to make my house payment. I want to make sure you make your house payment. That you sacrifice to help somebody else. When's the last time you didn't do something that you really, really wanted to do, and instead of doing what you really wanted to do, you invested that time with someone else in serving them? Compassion will do that type of thing. Now, honestly, a lot of us probably are thinking, well, yeah, I can instantly think of I did this and I did that, and I remember when I did something else. But some of us might not be able to remember so easily. When was the last time I did something that didn't involve me? That I went out of my way to help someone else? I want to wrap up with like 3 quick applications about this that is important for us to catch. Right? One. This is big. Compassion interrupts. Compassion, it interrupts. When you look at Jesus, you see him time and time again. He's doing something. He has an agenda. He has a schedule. He's going somewhere. He's got whatever. He has a plan, and compassion interrupts that plan. It interrupts that schedule. It interrupts with his agenda for the day, and he has to do something completely different. In Mark chapter 6, Jesus and the disciples have been working like dogs. They've been serving and teaching and helping people and just serving. And Jesus says, okay, you guys have hit a wall. I can see that. We all need a break. Let's get in this boat. We're going to go to the other side, and we're just going to rest. It's in Mark 6:31. He said to them, come away by ourselves to a desolate place and rest a while. He's talking to his disciples. We just need to take a break, guys. You've hit a wall. You've got to that point. There's nothing more to give, right? And we're going to rest. For many were coming and going. They had no leisure even to eat. So they haven't even eaten. That's just how much they've been giving. And the agenda was set very clearly. We're going to go to the other side. We're going to rest. We're going to take a break. And in Mark 6 verse 34, it said when we got to the shore, they saw a great crowd. So they're getting over on the other side. They see a crowd. And there's that word. And he had compassion on them. Because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. They're tired. They're exhausted. They're hungry. They're at the end. And they're like, I've got to rest. And all of a sudden he looks and says, man, these guys... He wasn't critical. If I get hungry and tired and I'm at the end, I start getting critical. It's a flesh thing. Like, why are those people doing dumb things? Talk to me later. Don't do dumb things. That's my first thought. And his first thought is, man, these guys don't have direction. These guys need some guidance. Look at the dumb things they're doing. They need a shepherd. So he interrupted his schedule and said, I'm yours. Let me teach you. Let me guide you. Let me tell you the way. Let's talk about kingdom stuff. That's what's happening in Mark 6. How about Mark 2, the story there? Jesus is teaching in a house that's overflowing with people. You'll remember this one. And it's crowded, and these 4 guys, they have a friend who's a paralytic, and he can't obviously walk for himself. They got him on a mat, and they're trying to carry him into the house, but it's too crowded. They can't get in. So what do? They go up on the roof, and they tear through the roof, and they lower him down. Now, here's Jesus in the middle of teaching. He's got his plan. He's got his agenda. He knows what he's trying to do with this crowd. And there's these dudes lowering some guy. Like, that's not on the plan, right? It's like, dude, come to me tomorrow. Talk to my secretary. We'll talk to you. We'll put you, get in a line. But that's not what he said. Because compassion interrupts. He says, you all going to have to put on hold for a minute. We got a guy here who really needs me. And he ministers to, he heals this guy. He forgives this guy. Mark 2:5, when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, son, your sins are forgiven. And he engaged them. It moved him to action, moved him to do something. Compassion will interrupt your schedule. You have compassion for people that moves you. You're not going to say, boy, I'm really moved about the situation. I hope that car on the side of the road's still there when I get off work. It's like, no, you're going to do it now. You have to do it now. It'll interrupt you. Second thing about compassion is it costs. Remember the story of the Good Samaritan? Jesus tells the story of a guy who's a Samaritan, and he helps a Jewish guy who's been beat up and he's hurt, and he goes way out of his way to help this guy who probably hated him. There's probably a racial thing going on there, but he bandages the guy up, and he takes him to a place and pays all the bills, like, just keep me here till he feels better. Who does that to a total stranger? That cost him personally. He didn't say, hey, put it on the company credit card, hope so, you guys take freebies. He paid for it. He paid for this thing. True compassion will cost. Now, I know it's so much easier just to like something that doesn't cost. It's so much easier just to put a little sad face. Oh, sorry about your loss. Praying for you. And those are good. Don't get me wrong. But it has to go beyond that. True compassion will actually cost you something. Sometimes it gets a little messy. Have you ever helped someone and it just got messy? Their lives are messy and things are messy, and sometimes it just costs you the cleanness of a nice, pure little white screen that's happy. It's like it just becomes messy. I do mentoring at our school. Been doing it for years, and a few years ago, I was helping this guy. I don't know if I've ever shown this here before. They one day we walked in. Oh, yeah, you might play a game. You sit and talk about what's going on with their grades, what's going on with their life. Just have conversation. It's not a terribly complicated thing. But I'm working with this guy, and there's just these little craft things on the floor, little fuzzies and felt and stuff. And I say, hey, let's make something. So I make this little thing. I don't even know what it is. This is a round yellow ball with orange hair made of felt and a smiley face. And anyway, that's what I made. But what I did is I took this and I put it in my car, and there's a little groove, little pocket thing in the dash, right? And it fits just in there perfectly. And so it's been in there for years now. Every time I look down, it's about that angle. I see that thing and I pray. I pray for my little guy. Now this particular guy that I made this with, he's been out of the school district for a while. They had to put him in a place for children that are violent. He had to go to a special place. He just thought it was cool to beat the tar out of people. Just whatever. He just thought it was really neat. They said something bad to him or didn't like a shoe, whatever, and he just beat the snot out of people. It's not always 100% successful. You try to interject into people's lives. Sometimes it's a little messy. I don't know where this guy is. I have a different person I'm mentoring now, so I see this and I pray for my current guy, but I pray for my guy who a few years ago, probably out of high school by now. He was in elementary school then. It gets messy. It gets messy sometimes. We have people here. As I was saying, can you think of the last time you gave of yourself? I know it was going through some of your minds. We have people who've spent time going to homeless camps and having conversations, giving food, water, care. We have others working with underprivileged children in multiple ways, multiple families who have adopted children from all over the country, from locally, but just different things. People helping. We've given rides to homeless people to get food, to get shelter, to come to church. We've done a lot of things. For a lot of people, you have, and I say we, you. I've done all of these things. We've worked with single mothers trying to raise their children. You're going into detention centers and having Bible studies with kids that made a few mistakes and they're trying to figure life out, and you're going to them and you're being allowed to go into these places. You're investing your lives in people, and it's messy sometimes, isn't it? You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's messy sometimes. It's not always clear, clean, cut, happy ending story. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it is. Sometimes it's messy, and sometimes it's costly to you, and sometimes it interrupts your life It messes with your schedule, it messes with your heart, it messes with everything, right? Even your finances, and it's costly. But it does something else. And this is what makes it all worth it. Compassion changes lives. Changes lives. You know what I'm talking about. You're in the front lines of so much of this. When Jesus went everywhere he went, he was moved with compassion, and he was moved to do things and touch people and change them and help them and heal them and do so many things for them. And every time he does that, people change, right? They're not the same. The Son of God came, and he forgave my sins. The Son of God came, he healed me of this. And they became followers many, many times because of this. Think of the lives that have changed because of you. I'm talking to you in generic, the Pathway Church. Think of the people who we as a community of believers have had an impact. We have children in this congregation that were born overseas and discarded by a culture and put in homes where their future wasn't all that bright. And some of you have gone there to them and brought them home. They're walking the halls these days with smiles on their faces. There's times it's been messy for you. There's been times it's been messy for us helping you, but it's changed. It's changed your life. It's changed the child's life, children's lives. It's changed the lives of the people that know you. People aren't the same because of that compassion. We've seen it. We've seen children taken out of difficult situations and raised in godly homes, given stability, given Jesus, raised in people that love them and released back into the world many times. Can it be messy? Yeah, it can be messy. Has it interrupted your schedules? Yeah. You can tell me better than me. Yeah. Worth it? Yeah. Absolutely. Like I said, we've seen homeless men and women taken to hospitals and cared for, taken to shelters, given food, given love, given Bibles, given companionship, given rides. Messy sometimes. Messy. But worth it. Kids are all over the place through you being mentored and guided and taught Jesus and shown unconditional love. They have nothing to give you back. And it's an interruption. And it's costly, but it's worth it. We've seen families with fixed incomes served hot meals and given special treats. And there's so many things you don't even know that just happens around here. People helped with mortgage or rent payments. People helped who are going through hard times. People who stay up late, hanging out with people, praying for them, being with them, rescuing them from themselves, oftentimes having compassion toward each other and strangers. It happens all the time around here. You see, that's, as Christ followers, what we're called to do. It's you engaging in kingdom work. That's what it's all about. It's all right there. Compassion. Getting beyond a like or a share of a smiley face and interrupting your life and interrupting your schedule and costing you something, and it's changing lives. And I think you'll find, and you can certainly attest to this, not only will it change the lives of the people you're having compassion toward, it changes your life. It changes our lives. It changes it all. It's okay to put smiley faces and everything. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep praying for you. It's an encouragement. But make sure you're engaged with that person. Don't think you've done your job when you put a smiley face on their Facebook page or shared their tweet, retweeted their tweet, or whatever it is, social media thing. Make sure you engage in your life. Be moved to action. be moved in your bowels to help people out. We're gonna close right now, and I would ask you to just pray right now. If it's a stand. We're gonna pray, and I want to give you a moment to just invite Jesus to interrupt your schedule this week, and invite Jesus to bring someone in your life that might be a little messy, and to give you that movement, that soul feeling of I've got to do something. When we go out and do that, we represent Jesus everywhere. We do that. If you would, just pray.